the casualties of war are the civilian population of whichever country is you're fighting. 5% are some soldiers, very few. And so you destroy any country. The Powell Doctrine is also acknowledges that. The Powell Doctrine is you don't go somewhere unless you're going to destroy everything and leave. So therefore nobody's there to do what you want. You've destroyed them all. So there, and in Buddhism you lose the Bodhisattva vow, for example, to destroy the town or city of an enemy. Not just the people who are against you, but the town or city of an enemy, you lose the Bodhisattva vow. It's like a heinous crime, in fact. Because these are innocent people, actually. We call it, we have all these euphemisms, collateral damage. You know? It's not collateral damage. You bomb somebody's city, you're going to kill all the people in the city. Shock and awe, like Bush and Cheney did into Baghdad, for example. And civilian bombing was begun, interestingly, in Baghdad by the British. And it didn't work for the British in the 20s and 30s. That's when it began, after World War I. And then, of course, it was a major thing in World War II. And it's ever since. It's a big thing. You know, so because you don't want to go and have to fight somebody hand to hand somewhere. So war, therefore, is now self-destructive.
It's just theory.
It doesn't work.
It's just theory.
It's not theory. You look at any war today, you destroy them, they never stop.
It's never happened to you.
What?
It's never happened to you. You've never had
to nonsense. I've been in many wars in many lives. Violence will end in violence. That's the fact.
You've never had to
Don't justify killing civilians. You can't do it.
Next question. You've never had to make the choice of this life.
Yes.
Do you think Timothy Leary translated Tibet Book of the Dead?
That's fine. Yes, what's the question?
What do you think Timothy Leary did to the West?
I'm sorry, you have to speak to me on Paul's.
What do you think Timothy Leary did to the West by translating the Book of the Dead? Do you think it was a positive effect that he out of that? Because I know
Leary had a very good effect at Harvard when he was sort of within the system a little bit, and a lot of psychiatrists were doing experiments with the sort of vision quest type of drugs, and it was good. But once he became like a rebel, it was not effective, and it was bad actually, and it led to a counter reaction that was not good. And when you say translate the Book of the Dead, actually Ralph Metzer translated it really, and it wasn't a good translation. They didn't understand it really thoroughly. So it wasn't particularly helpful. My translation of the Book of the Dead, however, is and you will be able to learn a lot from that. But they didn't know Tibetan, so they really couldn't translate anything. They just took the Evans Wentz earlier translation done by Kazi Dawa Sambat, the Sikamese guy, and they sort of made it something about the psychedelic experience, which was not bad. I'm saying their work, many psychiatrists in many hospitals around the world, and also the CIA, were using those kind of what are called psychedelic drugs as a way of getting into the unconscious of people, helping them get into the unconscious and find out what is their trauma and their problem much more quickly than the normal talking month after month. And they were very useful, just as in traditional societies, the vision quest at a certain age is wonderful for a young person, and to figure out what the meaning of their life is for them, and it's very useful. But this sort of out-of-control thing about it, and the sort of mixing up of those with the sort of pleasure drugs, the uppers, the downers, the destructive ones, addictive ones, they were never addictive, those kinds. They're too frightening for me. They never would have been addictive. They now aren't addictive. But then he got them all mixed up with everything. He did. He went nuts, And that was too bad. That was unfortunate, I think. And it stopped the research, that was very useful by the psychiatric community, which is a little bit going in Europe now, and again here and there in the West. It's a little bit going, it's becoming a little more sane. And it also helped Nixon and company start the war on drugs, which has been an unmitigated disaster and should be ceased immediately. Because it's the only way to stop this thing is to take the financial incentive away from the gangsters and to license, tax, and and get the jails are filled. 75% of people in jail are there because of this, and that's a huge expense. And of course, it creates prison guard jobs, but and then people might get employed. But they could do something much more useful than that. And it ruins the nature of our society. It's a complete disaster. And just like FDR, with a stroke of the pen, canceled prohibition in 1933, which was a constitutional amendment, actually. Obama better cancel the drug war if he wants to really use the government properly, and also the people who enforce it They're completely just more or less like the gangsters. They're, you know, they're driving around their Ferraris. You know, you had that Miami thing, you know, what was it called, Miami Vice. And they're just as crazy as the other people. The Ferraris, I mean, it's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous, and it's very destructive to ordinary citizens. Too much collateral damage. Way too much. And instead there should be a sane, medicalized, you know, understanding of the whole thing. And you know, if they're going to throw them in jail for pot, they should throw them in jail for whiskey. That's all I can say.